The story takes place in a future where time travel exists. But whether it's a blessing or a curse is something you'll discover along the way. It all begins during the festive season of Christmas. A joyful mother is singing cheerfully with her son, Henry, as they make their way home. Out of nowhere, their car crashes in a violent accident. At the exact moment of the crash, something strange happens. Henry vanishes into thin air. He suddenly reappears at his own house. But the strange thing is, it's 2 weeks before the crash ever happened. Confused and startled, Henry finds himself standing in front of his mom, dad, and a younger version of himself. Even more bewildering, he realizes he's completely naked. Before he can make sense of what's going on, he's pulled away again, teleporting straight back to the place of the accident. There, in real time, he witnesses the tragedy unfold as his mother loses her life in the crash. As he desperately tries to intervene and save her, a mysterious man steps in and stops him. To Henry's shock, that man is actually himself, from the future. The older version of Henry tells the younger one that trying to save their mother is impossible. He reveals that they are actually the same person, and that Henry is now a traveler through time. He reassures him not to panic, promising, "I'll return soon." With that, the older Henry vanishes into thin air, leaving his clothes behind. This makes it clear that every time Henry jumps through time, he arrives without clothes. The story then moves to the present day, the time Henry had originally jumped from. Here we discover that Henry works at a local library. It was inside this very building that he first slipped into the past. Ever since he was a child, Henry has disliked Christmas. It brings painful memories, as it was the day his mother died. The following day, while he's on duty at the library, a young woman walks in. The moment she sees him, her face lights up with joy. She calls him by name and says with excitement, "You told me we'd meet again. And now, after 2 long years, it's finally happening." Henry stares at her in disbelief. He has no clue who she is. The girl then introduces herself as Claire and tells Henry, "You may not know me, but I've known you since you were a child." Hearing this, Henry realizes she knows about his time travel. Claire invites him to meet her at a restaurant at 7 p.m. so she can explain everything in detail. Later that evening, as Henry is getting ready at home, he suddenly travels through time again, without warning. This time he finds himself in a different era, running through the streets after stealing clothes from someone's house. Before he can get away, the police catch him. They rough him up during the arrest, but just then, Henry vanishes once more, reappearing in his original timeline, with bruises on his face from the scuffle. Claire, shocked by his injuries, asks what happened, but Henry brushes it off and says, "Forget that, just tell me, how do you know me?" As Henry reaches for a drink, Claire stops him. She tells him that Dr. Cantrick warned her that Henry's time travel gets worse whenever he drinks. That's why he struggles to control it. Frustrated and confused, Henry replies, "I don't know any Dr. Cantrick. None of this makes sense. Start from the beginning. When did we first meet?" Next, the story shifts into a flashback where we see a young Claire, only 6 years old, playing near her house. As she's playing, she hears rustling sounds coming from the bushes nearby. Thinking it's her brother trying to scare her, she walks closer. But to her surprise, it's not her brother. It's Henry, who has just arrived from the future. He's completely unclothed due to the nature of time travel, so he asks Claire for some clothes before stepping out from behind the bushes. Now, it's important to note that this version of Henry isn't the same one currently sitting with Claire at the restaurant, listening to her story. This Henry is from even further in the future. Young Claire, startled and confused, asks him who he is and why he's there. Henry explains that he's a time traveler and that he came specifically to meet her. Naturally, Claire doesn't believe a word he says. To prove he's telling the truth, Henry starts revealing personal details, things about Claire's family and events that are about to happen in the coming days. Slowly, Claire begins to believe him. She then asks what their relationship is like in the future. Henry smiles and says, "We become really good friends." After saying that, Henry tells young Claire his name, shakes her hand, and promises that he'll return someday. Then right before her eyes, he vanishes. Claire is amazed and thrilled. Her new friend is a time traveler. The story then shifts back to the present, where Claire and Henry are now grown up and spending time together. One day, Claire brings Henry to meet her friends. One of them is a guy named Gomez. They all hang out and have a great time together. A few days later, Gomez sees something strange. Henry is wearing a girl's clothes and getting into a fight on the street. Gomez quickly steps in to stop the fight and asks Henry what's going on. Instead of answering, Henry looks confused and asks, "What year is this?" That's when Gomez realizes something is off. Henry explains that he's not from this time. He's traveled here from the future. He says, "I'm a time traveler, and in the future, you and I are really close friends." Gomez doesn't believe any of it and thinks Henry is making up stories. But just then, Henry disappears right in front of his eyes. Gomez is left completely confused by what he just saw. He rushes to Claire and tells her everything that happened, how Henry suddenly disappeared right in front of him. But to his surprise, Claire calmly replies, "I already know." Gomez tries to convince her that Henry isn't the right person for her. He tells her that marrying someone who can randomly vanish through time is dangerous, and she deserves someone more stable. Meanwhile, Henry has traveled once again, this time to a moment in the past when his mother was still alive. To avoid revealing his identity, he pretends to be a stranger and approaches her gently. Since she was a singer, Henry starts a conversation by complimenting her voice and striking up friendly small talk. talk. Even though it breaks his heart, it's the only way he can see her again. Back in the present, we see Henry returning home. Ever since his mother passed away, he's struggled emotionally and drinks a lot to cope. His father, who also knows about Henry's time-traveling condition, watches him with concern. One day, Henry opens up to his dad and tells him that he's fallen in love with a girl, and they're planning to get married soon. Hearing this, Henry's father is touched. He hands Henry a ring and says, "I always thought you'd be alone your whole life, but if this girl is choosing to marry you, even knowing you're a time traveler, she must be truly special." The next day, Henry proposes to Claire by slipping the ring onto her finger, and with a warm smile, she says yes. Days pass, and finally the wedding day arrives. Henry gets a fresh haircut, dresses up nicely, and prepares to step into a new chapter of life. But beneath the excitement, he's scared. He knows that his time travel happens randomly, without warning, and he has no control over it. Just moments before the wedding was about to begin, Henry suddenly vanished, time traveling yet again. His friend Gomez began to panic. With only minutes left before the ceremony, the groom had disappeared without a trace. But then something unexpected happened. A much older version of Henry suddenly teleported into the scene. His face showed the weight of time. This was Henry from far in the future. Realizing there was no other choice, the older Henry decided to take the place of his younger self and marry Claire. When Claire saw him, she instantly understood. This wasn't the same Henry she had been with, but she smiled, accepting it without hesitation. To her, it didn't matter whether he was the Henry from the past, present, or future. What mattered was that she was marrying Henry, the man she loved. The wedding went ahead in full celebration, filled with joy and love. But on the very night of their wedding, Henry vanished once more, pulled away by time. He found himself standing in front of young Claire again, years in the past. She wasn't surprised this time. In fact, she had already left clothes out for him, knowing he would arrive unprepared. Back in the present, Claire and Henry shared many beautiful moments together. Despite the constant time jumps, they tried to live a happy life. Days turned into months, and Henry continued to disappear unpredictably, sometimes to the past, sometimes to the future. And the worst part, he never knew how long he'd be gone. Eventually, the strain began to wear on Claire. One day, overwhelmed with frustration, she confronted Henry. She was angry and hurt. He would vanish for weeks or even months without a word. Henry listened quietly, fully aware of the pain he was causing her. But the truth was, he couldn't stop it. He had no control over when or where he would be pulled next. In an effort to bring some stability to their life, Henry handed Claire a lottery ticket one day. He told her to keep it safe. When the numbers were drawn, they won. With the prize money, Claire and Henry bought a new house, a fresh start, even if their life together remained anything but ordinary. A few days later, Gomez came over to visit Henry and Claire with his girlfriend. But suddenly, a future version of Henry appeared out of nowhere, wounded and bleeding from a gunshot. Before anyone could react or help him, he vanished again, leaving everyone in shock. Seeing this, the present-day Henry became extremely worried. If that was his future, then the same thing could happen to him too, but he had no idea when or how. Claire, trying to calm him down, told him that things needed to change now. She revealed she was pregnant and said, "You have to stop time traveling. It's time to meet Dr. Kendrick." The next day, Henry went to see Dr. Kendrick and explained everything. His time jumps, the randomness, and what he had just witnessed. As expected, the doctor didn't believe a word of it at first. But after Henry begged him, Dr. Kendrick agreed to run some tests. They placed Henry inside a machine to examine him. But while the test was happening, Henry vanished again, right from inside the machine. Now, even Dr. Kendrick couldn't deny the truth anymore. He realized that Henry really was a time traveler. Meanwhile, Claire received devastating news. She had lost the baby. During a checkup, the doctors discovered something shocking. The baby had inherited Henry's ability to time travel. That explained the miscarriage. How could the baby survive, constantly shifting through time? Their lives were falling apart, with problem after problem piling up. Then one day, Henry jumped forward into the future again. There he met a young girl who ran up to him, calling him Daddy. She was Alba, Henry's daughter. Alba explained to him that she had inherited his ability to time travel and was learning to control where and when she went. During their conversation in the future, Henry asked his daughter Alba when he will leave her and Claire for good. Reluctantly, Alba tells him the truth. He disappears when she turns 5. Hearing this breaks Henry's heart, but he doesn't show it. When he returns to the present, he shares the good news with Claire. He's just met their daughter in the future. He tells her her name is Alba and she's happy. So don't worry, everything will be okay. But Henry keeps one painful detail to himself. He doesn't tell Claire that he'll be gone forever once Alba turns 5. Time goes by, and eventually Alba reaches her 5th birthday. One day, Claire and Henry are shocked to see something strange. An older version of Alba from the future has appeared and is talking to her younger self. She's come to warn little Alba that their dad won't be around much longer. Hearing this, young Alba becomes very sad. Claire notices her daughter looking upset and gently asks what's wrong. That's when 5-year-old Alba tells her everything, what the future version of herself has just revealed. Claire is heartbroken. Deep down, she always feared this day would come. After all, she had seen the older version of Henry before, the one who had been shot. She knew it meant his time was running out, but how it would happen, no one knew. Henry screamed in pain. He had injured his leg during a time jump. After that, he had to use a wheelchair to move around. One day, while talking to his daughter, Henry suddenly time traveled again. This time, he landed just a few days in the future, right outside his own house. It was Christmas Day. He looked through the window and saw something heartbreaking. The version of himself from that timeline was lying inside, taking his final breaths. Watching this, Henry realized the truth. He was going to die on Christmas. He returned to the present, carrying the heavy knowledge of what was to come. As the days passed, Christmas finally arrived. Henry knew this would be his last day. He called his friend Gomez aside and thanked him for everything, for being there through it all. Gomez was shaken. He could feel it too. Tonight was the night Henry would be gone forever. The two friends hugged tightly, crying together, not wanting to let go. Suddenly, Henry vanished once more, pulled into the forest by another time jump. In the woods, a hunter fired a shot at an animal, but the bullet hit Henry instead. Wounded and bleeding, Henry teleported again, landing back in the exact place where everyone had once seen him in that same injured state. Henry returns to the present, just long enough to take his final breaths. Time moves on, years pass, and we're shown a peaceful scene where Alba's playing with her friends. Suddenly, someone appears. It's Henry, but this version of him is younger, and he has a 1-year-old daughter. Alba is overjoyed to see her dad again. She quickly sends her friends to go call her mom. When Claire hears that Henry has returned, she runs as fast as she can to see him. The moment they meet, they hug tightly, overwhelmed with happiness. Claire gently asks, "Why didn't you tell me you were coming today?" Henry replies, "I didn't want you to wait for me." Before leaving, Henry tells her, "I won't be coming back again. I've decided to stay in the past, so now I want you to move forward with your life, even if I'm not by your side." With those final words, Henry vanishes once more. Even though it was a short visit, both Claire and Alba were overjoyed to see him again. Smiling through their tears, they walk home together, and that's where the story ends.